And this is one of those bugs that's hard to detect if you've been exploited, so it's being used in the wild, and people are attempting to compromise devices with it. Kind of what we see from a security impact perspective is basically people out there hitting the same servers over and over again, trying to maximize the amount of data that they get, so when they go through it later that they get credentials or private keys and that kind of thing.
People might be wondering how vulnerabilities like this get into open source software. I mean, this was suddenly sprung on us like this, and could there be more bugs like this lurking out there? Should people be concerned that we don't know about things like this?
Absolutely. In this case, we actually had the OpenSSL dev team who is basically developing the code for OpenSSL on a shoestring budget. And so what we have here is a case of open source software that's relied on by a large number of applications across the internet, and we see that they're basically vulnerable, because of this decision that's made by the dev team on OpenSSL. So no doubt there's going to be other bits of software out there, also probably commonly linked across multiple applications, and these things have an extreme likelihood of falling victim to a similar type of bug.
Craig, Track wrote about how there's a client-side version of this attack as well. Could you say a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure, Andrew. So what can happen is if a client that's using the vulnerable library inside of a piece of software connects to the malicious server, the server can send a malformed heartbeat request to the client, whose length indicates that it's beyond the end of the actual amount of data, and then the client will then read past the end of the buffer into its own memory and package that back up in the response and send it to the server. So what you can end up with is if you have a server that's been compromised, an attacker can actually use that to read data off of the people connecting to the machine, and within that data could be very sensitive things like usernames, passwords, private encryption keys. So it's a fairly severe bug, and again, it's not even obvious that the client's been attacked a lot of the time.
Right. As a client, is there anything much I can do about that scenario, or is it up to people to identify when their servers have been compromised and being used in this way?
Well, the first thing is, make sure you're connecting to known servers. Don't just randomly connect to like an IMAP server over SSL, right? I mean, that's the very first step of mitigating your risk. The second thing is to make sure that your servers are patched, and then accordingly make sure that your clients are patched. If you're using a piece of software, that connects over SSL, you should probably make sure that you're running the latest version, and if an update pops up in the next couple of days, make sure you apply it as quickly as you can.